Working from home might become the new normal as more and more companies allow their employees to telecommute. I've been working from home for a little over 2 years now, and I thought it would be more difficult than it actually is. My positive experience and productivity is due to the company I work in and my teammates, of course. So how exactly are we staying motivated and productive, and what lessons have I learned during this time working from home? You'll find out in today's video. I will give you my top 10 tips, and I will leave the most important 2 at the end of the list. They are the backbone of a successful workspace, so make sure to watch this video till the very end. Before we dive into it, subscribe to this channel if you want to know more about productivity, time management, success, and personal finance. Let's go. Without any further ado, let's start with the most basic tip, and despite its simplicity, many attempted not to do it. That is, change out of your pajamas. The idea of working in our pajamas sounds tempting, but this approach could be negative on our productivity in the long run. The PJ mindset is a mindset of relaxation. So when we change our clothes into something more work appropriate, it signals a shift in our day and puts us in a work mindset. It changes our attitude towards work, and it makes us more productive ultimately. Creating boundaries between your personal and work life can be difficult when you work from home. And if we can change the environment to put us in a more productive state of mind, changing our wardrobe can help us separate the two. The second one is have set hours when you will be working. I have worked remotely for 2 years, and I love the flexibility of working from anywhere I want as long as I have good internet connection. Flexibility is definitely a key benefit, but there are so many other benefits and advantages to having set hours for work. Many managers worry that the employees will not be productive at home, but very often employees actually log in more hours and work more because they can't really leave work. So when we work in an outside office, going home signals the end of the workday, but when we are at home, we often find ourselves working in the evenings or even on the weekends. Your coworkers might think you're always available for any urgent tasks, and there are a lot of distractions at home. So having a set time focused on work only is setting boundaries again between your personal and professional time. The third one is find your work zone. If you have a spare room in your house or apartment that you could turn into your home office, that would be the most ideal situation because you can stay away from distractions and you can design your workspace for maximum productivity. But let's face it, most of us don't have this kind of luxury. I remember the first apartment we rented when we came to the US. I was scrambling to find a place for my home office, or at least find a peaceful and inspiring place. I set a small home office in the corner of my daughter's bedroom, and I worked from there while she was at daycare. It was a quiet place and there were no distractions there, no TV or comfortable couch. It was not close to the fridge. It was far from the pile of laundry that needed to be done, and so on. But when my daughter had to stay home because she had a cold or something like that, and I had to work, I couldn't use her room anymore. So I worked in the closet of our room while my husband took care of my daughter. It wasn't the best place, but it worked because I could stay away from the distractions. I closed the door to our room, and then I closed the door to the closet itself so that it would be quieter and that I could focus speaking with the clients on the phone. This actually sounds crazy, but it brings back really good memories. And our journey, how we made it here in the US in only 2 years, is a very interesting story on its own. I might tell you about this if you're interested. I might make a separate video, so let me know, guys, if you're interested, and I would be happy to remember the good times. So yes, when working from home, it can be a challenge cramming an office space in a small apartment, but it is important to find your nook for productivity. Wherever that nook is, make sure it's away from distractions, and trust me, there are a lot of distractions when you're working from home. There are family members who need your attention, there are household chores, there's TV, and so on. So to best avoid distractions, You really need to understand and know your weaknesses. If you watch too much TV, don't work in a room where you have quick access to it. If you are tempted to do some household chores, work in a room where you don't see the dirty laundry or the dirty dishes. Set your own rules for maximum productivity. The next thing on our list is know your most productive hours. There's no point in working 8 hours just to fill the time if you're not productive or you're just doing busy work. Time is a very precious resource. It stops for no one, and we only have so much of it during the day. So how do most productive people do more in less time? They match their highest priority work to their most productive hours. So that means they do the most important work during their peak productivity period. When I started implementing that, I started by listening to my body. When do I feel most energized? When is my brain most active and focused? When do I get tired? And when do I feel unproductive? And so what I found out is that for me, early mornings are very productive and I work very well until about early afternoon. I have a full-time job and I'm also growing this YouTube channel, so my work from home job starts at 8 o'clock, but I wake up earlier to work on my YouTube content so that I have good value for you guys. If you want to support my work, subscribe to this channel, it would mean a lot to me, and make sure to like this video. I work for about an hour before my daughter wakes up in the morning, but I get a lot of work done during that early hour because this is when my thoughts are clear and I have very good focus and attention. Then at 8 o'clock in the morning, I start my full-time job and I'm still wired. I'm still in this deep work zone. And if I have to gather any data or work on some reports, this is the best time to do so because my mind is sharp in the morning. In the early afternoon, my energy drops, so I can take a break or go for a brisk walk, and I'm also doing the tasks that don't require that much brain power. I get a second wind of energy in the afternoons at about 2 p.m. and this is when I also do more intense work. And then again in the evening, I also work pretty well after my daughter goes to bed. This is when my brain is fired up and I can plan my following day, I can read a book, I can work on my YouTube content. So understanding when you're most productive each day comes with awareness and with experimentation. And I know I just said that separate business time from personal time, and typically I would recommend if you work until 5 p.m. then work until 5 p.m. and afterwards spend time with your family. But because I am doing two things simultaneously, I have a full-time job and I want to grow my YouTube channel, that's why I have to work outside of my full-time job. The next thing on the list is take breaks wisely. It seems intuitive, I know, but we don't really take breaks. Or quite the opposite actually, we take a long break and then we lose momentum to work. And I always felt guilty taking breaks during my work hours. I would even eat lunch in front of my computer and I wouldn't dare go out for a small walk to clear my head. I felt like I had to be working non-stop for the hours that I was paid. But then I started using the Pomodoro technique, and not only did I see an increase in my productivity, but I also felt more rested than before. If you don't know what the Pomodoro technique is, I have a video on it and you can check it right here. But the reason I really like it is because it is structured in a way that it incorporates the breaks into your work. I work for 25 minutes intensely and focused, and then I take a quick 5-minute break away from the computer. That way, I get my quick mental rest, but the break is not so long that I completely lose momentum and lose interest in or motivation to work afterwards. And interestingly enough, I get a lot of good ideas during my break. So don't overlook the importance of breaks. Plan your day and make it a regular habit. If you are a night person, at the end of each day, plan for the following day. If you are a morning person, plan for the day ahead as you're getting started. Before I discovered planning, my work days used to go something like that. In the morning, I would turn on my computer and look vaguely at the screen. I would check my social media to get that dopamine hit, and then I would check my email and get lost in all the new messages I got. I replied to some messages that were urgent but not productive, And I wasted precious time not working on the bigger project I had to do. And so I worked late and I worked on the weekends to catch up on my important and productive tasks. I felt guilty for wasting so much time, I was anxious about my projects, and I quickly lost motivation. Having a plan and a checklist changed all that for me. I am no longer wasting time thinking about work and what needs to be done, and I start each day with a clear, prioritized to-do list. And here's a bonus. If you want to take it a step further, plan your week as well, and that way it will be much easier to assign tasks to each day. I usually do a brain dump at the beginning of each week. This is where I write down every single task that comes to my mind, big or small. Our brains can be a real mess, and it has all these abstract ideas and thoughts that can stress us out. Once I put all my thoughts on paper, the ideas shape up into something more tangible and real. This exercise clears my mind, and I can schedule some to-dos from this list during that week. Block time on your calendar. The author of Deep Work said, a 40-hour time-blocked work week, I estimate, produces the same amount of output as a 60-plus hour work week pursued without structure. If you don't control your schedule, it will control you. Time blocking is a time management tool that allows you to divide your day into blocks of time. Simple as that. I'm a big believer in time blocking. For example, I block 2 hours on my calendar every single day where all I do is follow up with older clients. I also block time for emails. I receive a lot of emails and not all of them are important, but it's tempting to check them when we receive a notification. Unless the email says urgent, I have a specific time during the day where I respond to my email or declutter my inbox. The next tip is kind of a cousin of time blocking, and that is task batching. And this is another thing I do to be productive when I work from home. When possible, batch tasks. I usually batch shallow work. For example, decluttering my email and organizing my Google Drive file, they can go together. They can go in one chunk of 25 minutes when I do the Pomodoro technique. Here's the important thing. I only do task batching outside of my productive hours. Productive hours are used for tasks that require a lot of focus and a lot of concentration. But when I feel that my energy is dwindling, I do some low-impact work where my brain is not as stimulated. For me, that is usually in the afternoon, like I mentioned earlier, when I feel that my energy level is lower. If you don't know what you can batch, take a look at the brain dump results. If you did this exercise right, where you have to put down on paper every single task, big or small, I am sure you can find some small tasks that are not super urgent or that don't require a lot of concentration that you could bundle up and take care of them in one swoop. And like I said, I'm leaving the most important ones, the most important tips at the end of this video, and here they are. Number 9 is communication with your teammates. Modern technology allows for the whole team to work remotely and for the companies to be profitable. But when it comes to communicating virtually, there can be a lot of miscommunication. Communication is the backbone of a successful virtual workplace. My biggest lesson and advice to anyone who works remotely is to communicate an issue and voice any concern as soon as possible. Don't wait and don't assume that the other person understood what you meant. Many problems stem from miscommunication, not from bad intention. And while this is important for an office work as well, it is so much more important when working remotely. When relaying information to your teams, ask them to say it back to you to make sure that everything is accurate. In an office setting, it's easier to build relationships because of social interactions. It's easier to read the body language and it's easier to explain if something is not clear. But when it comes to working online, it's a little bit of a different story. And another thing that we incorporated at work is to always have the cameras on when we have meetings. It was a big game changer for us. Having the camera on, we can read each other's body language, or if anyone has a confused look on their face, we can clarify that issue right away. So communication really is super important when working remotely. And the last one is accountability. Every person in the company needs to have clear goals, policies, and expectations. If you are a freelancer and there's no team, find someone who's going to keep you accountable for reaching your metrics. Accountability makes people value their work and take pride in their good results, which boosts confidence. In our company, every person has a number to reach and everyone is being held accountable to that. We built a culture around accountability and employee engagement, and one of the best things at our virtual workplace is that employees seek feedback from others and take ownership to achieve desired results. And this wouldn't have been possible without keeping each other accountable. All these tips are important, but accountability and communication are the backbone of success. I want you to communicate with me as well in the comment section below. Which of these tips is the most important to you? What has helped you to work better from home? Or quite the opposite, what struggles did you go through that I haven't mentioned? Working remotely is here to stay for a while, and a lot of people, me including, might find your comment very helpful. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button, and if you enjoyed this video, hit thumbs up as well. I'll see you next time.